Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy that you all found your way here to this conference room on the first day of the trade show. My name is Christine Lang. I'm a microbiologist and I'm on the board of BELANO Medical, which is based next to Berlin. Today I would like to introduce you to our products that we've developed in the fields of cosmetics. And I'm a biologist and microbiologist. That's my professional background. So for me, it's really important to explain to you what we did and how we did it. Let me check. There we go. Sorry about that. First of all, what do we do and what is our core expertise? As you can see up here on the slide, our core expertise is the development of microbiome products. In doing so, we do not only pay attention to not damaging the bacteria on the skin, which is our protective shield, but we actually develop products that can rebuild this protective layer and can have a positive impact. So this is all based on solid scientific findings, but we also have prepackaged, ready-delivered products for the market so you can benefit from the science, but also from all the development that goes into the marketing. We started out by asking ourselves, what are good bacteria? And we select the best out of all the good bacteria in order to integrate them into our products. Today, I would like to explain to you what our core products are. But before we focus on the products, I would briefly like to explain the skin microbiome. I'm really happy that a lot of people are aware of what the skin microbiome actually is, so we don't have to start with the very basics, but I still would like to give you some background information. What you see up here is a cross-section of our skin, and the skin microbiome, let me check where it is basically based up here on the top layer of our skin. But you can also see these are bacteria, some fungi, some mites. This is also part of the microbiome. They are based at the top layer of the skin, but where we have the sebaceous glands, the perspiratory glands, for example, the bacteria will also go into deeper layers of the skin. And it's actually very good that we have it because, as the headline says here, it's actually a protective shield for our skin, and at a healthy state, in a natural state, it's an excellent balance and helps our skin feel the best it can. So, skin microbiome is basically the community of all bacteria, fungi, and viruses present on our skin. And it's very important to know that most of these microorganisms are not harmful or even useful, and very important for the outer appearance of our skin. We've only learned that during the last couple of years because we totally neglected that fact, because we thought, okay, if we take proper care of our skin cells, the skin is going to be fine. But no, I think we definitely have to recognize that microbiome is part of our skincare philosophy. And when we're talking about beauty and healthiness, the microbiome is essential. So let me give you some background information, something you're all familiar because you're in cosmetics industry, and how important is the microbiome for these facts. On the left-hand side, I listed general facts that we know that our skin needs to be healthy. Our pH value should be slightly acidic. We want the skin to be free from inflammation. We want our skin barrier to be intact, which means it has a high water retention capacity, so we don't lose any moisture. We need a balanced lipid content. We also want to have a high hyaluronic acid content. And when we're talking about skin aging, we also want to have reliable skin renewal. You all know those facts. These are the very basics. This is what you want to have when discussing healthy and young skin. So what role does the skin microbiome play? This is what you find up here on the right-hand side. The pH value is slightly acidic because the bacteria present on our skin produce metabolites, and the healthy bacteria, for example, excrete as a metabolite lactic acid. So you have the slightly acidic top layer of the skin. Free from inflammation is a crucial aspect here because inflammation is produced by bacteria, inflammatory pathogens. And I will show you that later on. So if I have an excess amount of bacteria on our skin that are inflammatory, you'll have redness, you'll have inflammation. So we need the metabolites of the good bacteria because they fight inflammation. They also impact directly the keratinocytes, for example. The epidermal structure is important, that water retention capacity is good. And this is one of the key tasks of our microbiome because it will help maintain the epidermal structure from the outside. It will help maintain ceramides because healthy bacteria kill those bacteria, those pathogens that will kill, in turn, ceramides. Again, hyaluronic acid is important here because there are inflammatory pathogens, inflammatory bacteria that will reduce hyaluron on our skin. And if you have an excessive presence of these bacteria, you will have excessive reduction of hyaluron. So you have to fight off these bacteria. Skin renewal, we have scientific findings showing that some bacteria on the skin are crucial for skin renewal because they send off just the right signals to tell the skin to renew itself. Again, I would like to show you two diagrams to illustrate that because healthy bacteria serve to maintain the barrier function of our skin. So this was taken from scientific literature. So you can see all the bacteria here on the top layer of the skin. And if something changes, well, the question is why. It could be a signal from the outside or from inside the body. Actually, that doesn't matter. But what happens here is barrier disruptions, which means the skin barrier has been disrupted, and the little red dots here, Staphylococcus aureus, which will produce pus. For example, you probably know that. They can now penetrate the skin and now move into the active skin layers will cause inflammation and will impair the skin's immunity system. So this is something we don't want to see in our skin. We want to have the picture on the left-hand side, which is the healthy microbiome. So how can we maintain our skin microbiome? We should think, oh, okay, because I use great cream, I have great skincare. You'll probably be very disappointed to learn that doesn't help. So what we normally test at the lab can be really horrible. So this is an agar plate where you can grow bacteria. And what you can see up here, the gray layer here, is background growth of a strain of a very important test bacterium, which is called Staphylococcus epidermis. This is one of the good bacteria. So, and here what you apply here in the holes is a cream, and around the little dot with the cream, you'll have a growth hole. So actually the bacteria we want to grow on our skin gets killed off by the cream that we use, and that's not what we want. You can see different samples here. We used a total of 6 samples here. This is what we like to see. So this is the neutral cream. This is our control unit, and this will be a stimulating cream, stimulating bacteria. But unfortunately, we see here with normal cosmetics products, we see samples 1 to 5, which is not very friendly on our microbiome. It can be plant extract, it can be preservatives that simply kill off all bacteria on the top layer of our skin. And the picture that we saw on the left-hand side before, the intact, healthy skin, is not very easy to get with using normal cream. I would dare bet and say we will have to focus on microbiome far more strongly in the future and learn more about what our products do to the microbiome. Let me show, this is DNA data, so you don't have to understand everything that's up here on the slide, but I think I can explain quite clearly what it says here. Here you see a picture of microorganism on normal, non-atopic skin. And on the right-hand side, you'll see atopic dermatitis skin. And what you can see at first sight is this totally different. It's a totally different picture. So what's happening? So the appearance of your skin, if you suffer from a skin condition, it will change completely. Of course, not everyone suffers from a skin condition, but it's a very smooth flow from healthy skin to irritated skin to stressed skin to skin condition. And Staphylococcus aureus, which is an inflammatory bacterium, will be far more present on the right-hand side. So when you compare compare the two pictures, you can see you have an excessive presence of Staphylococcus aureus, which causes inflammation, and not like the great mix that we should have here. So up to 90% or more is occupied by Staphylococcus aureus in a skin condition. Normally it should be not present at all or only a maximum of 5% on our skin. So the question we were asking ourselves in our research department is, how can we reverse that process? Can we take preventative action? And on the other hand, can we actually bring that back to healthy again? Can we actually do that? Can we actually foster Staphylococcus epidermis and other good bacteria and fight off the inflammatory bacteria? That was our task, and we succeeded. We spent years of research. And what we got as a result was an active ingredient that we called Stimulans. It's a lactic acid ferment. I think you're familiar with that from other products. So what does it do? So our agent is derived from Lactobacillus, which is a lactic acid bacterium. It's what we know probiotic bacterium. So we actually filtered it out from several hundred strains. So we said we don't want a bacterium in our cosmetic product. So if you know your way about galenics and formulation, you know it's very difficult to have living bacteria in a cosmetic product because you have a problem with sterility, with stability, and all kinds of other issues. So we said, no, we want to find another way. So we put a little more research into that and developed a process by which we can now derive the ingredients of Lactobacillus brevis. So we actually grow in large fermenters, we'll grow those bacteria, we'll break up the cells in a process, and the metabolites, mainly peptides actually, that are present there, and other small molecules will then be derived from that mix, will be filtrated, so we have a clean, clear solution, which is great to be used in cosmetic formulations. So this extract or essence of the probiotic bacteria actually has the same effect. So it will no longer be called probiotic. It will be postbiotic, metabiotic, or microbiotic. There are different names for, but it simply means it's derived from a probiotic bacterium, but it's not the full bacterium, but only the active ingredients. So once we derived that substance from the bacterium, we said, okay, it worked perfectly fine in the lab, looked good. So we tried to find out more about it in a clinical trial. The first study we ran showed, and what we did was we used test persons, it's not patients, it's test persons with extremely dry skin. We applied it on the shin and then we tested versus placebo, and we wanted to find out what happens. So the first I can show you here, we have verum and placebo on those two sides. So this is a sample of the bacteria growing on the skin. So you basically just use some sticky film, you pull it off, put it on the agar plate, and then you can compare before and after. So after using the product in the verum, so this is like the protective layer of your skin. We made it visible here on the plate. So in the numbers, after 7 days, these are the commensals, the good bacteria. After 14 days, they're significantly higher, and always comparing verum and placebo. And after 28 days, even after 14 days, you have reached a certain considerable level. So on normal skin, you also have Staphylococcus aureus present, but the mechanism I told you earlier, they fight Staphylococcus aureus, they will be fought off and they will be reduced significantly. So we have restored the thickness of the bacterial layer. And of course, we looked at other criteria too. Earlier on, I told you the skin barrier, the water retention capacity, transepidermal water loss is crucial for many aspects. And we can also find out more about that when looking at our skin bacteria. So we're strengthening the protective layer of the skin, and we're also strengthening the TEWL, transepidermal water loss, is increased significantly, and we again ran verum versus placebo. So once we use stimulants, the active ingredient, the skin will be able to store moisture again, which is very important for restoring the skin's outer appearance. But during our clinical trial, we also ran other criteria, and I would like to show you some other data on that. So we used a dermatologist who actually assessed the appearance of the skin of our test persons. It's expressed in a score called DASI, which focuses on the moisture, scaliness, roughness of the skin, eczema. And test persons will be classified in groups. So you see the doctor's assessment here in this diagram, and I think at first sight you can see the groups were from very good to bad, and all the criteria are very good to good. Dark blue and bright blue is very good and good. So placebo was a normal, like, fatty cream. And on the left-hand side, on the varium, in the second, third, or fourth week, you see a considerable improvement, up to 60, 70%. So you see considerable improved appearance of the skin with regard to moisture. So I think everyone knows that, like, in winter, the skin on the shins, for example, starts getting itchy or dry. So this is what we looked at here. So our conclusion is that the appearance of the skin is improved significantly faster and significantly more considerably. And photos are always the best proof of how a product works. So we took pictures of some of the test persons before and after, here on day 1 and after day 28. And this test person, this is the forehead. This person suffered from significant atopic dermatitis, and this is the skin appearance after 4 weeks. And over there we had some contact dermatitis, some inflammatory reaction of the skin, and after 4 weeks we considerably improved the appearance of the skin. And a lot of young people, but also in adults, have serious problems with acne, and we could significantly alleviate acne after a period of 4 weeks. So I will give you the figures in a minute. This is just a photo to illustrate it. So in all those cases, atopic dermatitis, contact dermatitis, and acne, we really had significant inflammatory reactions present. And after using the Stimulans cream, we pushed it back to a healthy skin flora. So this is very convincing. And for me, as a microbiologist, for me, it was almost a surprise to see how considerable the impact on the skin was, actually. So what we did, we turned it into a range of cosmetics products. Our brand name is ibiotics. So this is the original cosmetic products range. So we have a whole range of products. We have beauty products and medical products. So you can visit us in Hall 1, booth 10 and CO4, and you can also try the products if you want to. But before I send you off to the hall, to our booth, I would like to report a little more on our second clinical study, which is very interesting for people who look into how we can repair damaged skin. Not just skin that is a little irritated or stressed, but really damaged skin. So our clinical trial was run with more than 100 test persons of all kinds of age groups and different diseases. The main group was atopic dermatitis, but we also had another group with psoriasis, with rosacea and acne. And I just listed up here on a slide for you what kind of symptoms the patients reported and how stressful patients thought they was. It was mainly redness, tense skin, itching, and the general appearance of the skin. So we ran a clinical trial and put them on a cream with Stimulans and asked them to report back to us what impact it had on their skin. So this is a summary of all the test persons in our clinical trial. And I listed it by symptoms. So the symptoms we asked them about earlier are, again, on this list: itching, redness, burning sensation, pain, scaliness, dryness, and general appearance. And it was enormously positive, the response we got from the test persons. So, like, for example, of course, pain is a little subjective, but a total of 75% of test persons saw actually a very strong improvement. And the skin symptoms are even rated with more than 80%. And more than 80% of the users reported a very strong improvement of these kinds of symptoms. So I talked about all the test persons in the total trial, but here you can see the detailed data. You don't have to read through all of it now, but I just wanted to point out something here. This is atopic dermatitis. We have psoriasis, rosacea, and acne. And we looked at different aspects to see what impact the cream had. And what was especially interesting was that 92% of people reported that redness had significantly reduced. With rosacea, 100% of patients said it doesn't itch anymore. And in general, you can also see the total data. Looking at the different skin conditions, we have a very high percentage for all of them. So, as a conclusion, I can say we believe that microbiotic cosmetic products will be the future of cosmetics, will be necessary for many of our clients who'd like to have a beautiful, healthy skin. And skin conditions vary from stressed skin, irritated skin, to real skin conditions. So we develop cosmetic products that are suitable for all kinds of skin conditions and skin problems. So it's based on regenerating the skin's microbiome and creating a stable protective layer. What's very important for using stimulants, I told you earlier that we developed a process that we don't work with living bacteria. We don't have living bacteria in the products. We don't need them to have exactly the impact I illustrated earlier. So you can get a stable formulation with a concentrate. And the key components that actually produce that effect are peptides, but also smaller metabolites derived from the probiotic bacterium. It's a strain of a lactic acid bacterium, Lactobacillus brevis. So it's very close to a probiotic bacterium. We're no longer call it probiotics because it's not the full bacterium. It's no longer living bacteria. So we call that microbiotic cosmetics, but you'll also find other names for it, postbiotic, metabiotic, for example. Yeah, and microbiotic. So what is it suitable for? Of course, it's suitable for healthy skin, but also as acute care in case of symptoms such as itching, burning, inflammation. It helps break the vicious circle. Itching, scratching, inflammation, we probably all know that. It will stabilize the moisture content. I told you more about the TEWL score earlier. It's suitable for both adults and children, and efficacy has been proven in clinical trials. So what do we have to offer? So what you can get from us, basically, is ready-delivered products, which means I can show you it's a full series of products that we have readily developed. We have body lotions, we have a serum, we have hand creams, we have a tincture for the skin, for example, hairy body parts. And you can get that as your own brand, as your private label, or you can get the ibiotics range. We also offer customer-specific variants of our formulation. And of course, you can also buy bulk and fill it yourself in your own containers, in your own design, or you can also buy the ingredient. We need some consultancy here, so we also listed expertise and support here because I showed you the picture earlier, the diagram. If you don't know exactly how microbiome friendly your own cosmetics range is, it probably won't help just adding the stimulants because it will help reduce killing off the good bacteria, but not quite the effect that we illustrated, so you'll get a lot of project support from us. So let me introduce you to our product ranges, and I would like to invite you to come to our booth to see it. We have cosmetic skincare, we have medical skincare, and I would just like to point out some of them, some of the newer products that we recently came up with. Ibiotics hand cream, for example. You have the normal fatty formulation that you know as a hand cream, but we also have the hydrogel, which is fat-free, oil-free, which has a clear benefit for people who like using their iPhone right after creaming their hands because it won't all get sticky and fatty. It's very pleasant. It's one of my favorites from our range. I mentioned the skin tincture. It's oil-free, specifically developed for the scalp and other hairy body parts like the beard area, for example. And we also developed a baby hydrogel, which is very, very gently formulated, which is perfectly designed for baby's sensitive skin, because a lot of babies suffer from atopic dermatitis. So I strongly recommend that product, and it also received the product award very recently. So did you see we're not new in the market? We're not just starting out. So apart from our own products, we also have some examples here from our cooperation partners for who we have already developed products that use our ingredients. Henkel, for example, we have partnership. So they build on our science for their Biome line and also the Müller drugstore chain. You will find our products as Avio-made on the shelves. So a very brief summary, your take-home message, that's what I like to call it. The skin microbiome is our protective shield. This is something you should definitely take home with you. It produces the acid mantle, it maintains the barrier function, it reduces the presence of inflammatory pathogens. It's an important part of our immune system, and it's very important for beauty because it will slow down the aging of the skin. So our skin is actually exposed to many disruptive factors. It doesn't necessarily have to be a skin condition. It can be UV light, it can be stress, it can be pressure, which will then result in skin problems. And a well-balanced microbiome will help maintain a healthy skin even if you're stressed out. The rebalanced microbiome, first of all, we're going to regenerate it. We're going to regenerate the disrupted microbiome, but it will then help regenerate the skin with skin conditions. And it needs to strengthen the natural function of the microbiome. So we think that a microbiotic agent Stimulans is the answer to all these questions and issues. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. So you should always remember that only if the microbiota is in balance, you will be healthy and beautiful up to a very high age. Thank you very much for your attention. Hello. So can you tell us a little more about the concentration? So what concentration do we need in a finished product for the product to be effective? That varies quite a bit. We would say the lower limit is 1 to 2%, but you could go up to 5 to 7%. In a serum, for example, the serum is a concentrate, so we have a slightly higher concentration. Can I ask you another question? Sure, go ahead. Would that be Lactobacillus brevis that is especially effective against Staphylococcus aureus? No, that's very interesting, actually. The brevis strain, I didn't explain that in too much detail. It's DSM 25, there's a number to it, and 17, I'm not sure. There's a number behind it. So it's a very specific strain that has been patented. And what's very interesting is that the strain doesn't directly fight aureus, but we use the mechanisms of nature because we strengthen Staphylococcus epidermis, which will then produce peptide that kills off Staphylococcus aureus. So which means we actually stimulates this healthy natural cycle, which is the mechanism behind it. Okay, thank you very much. Christine Hane. I have a very short question. So you personally, what do you think about basic cosmetics? I actually got that question several times before. Basic cosmetics, in clinical trials, it shows some effect. We can see that. With regard to the microbiome, it should not have any sustainable effect. That wouldn't make sense. What I assume is happening is that the basic effect removes aureus. It removes the pathogens. But I can't really comment on whether or not this will actually stimulate the microbiome because I'm not aware of any data, but it would be interesting to know more about that. That was a great presentation. I'm also a microbiologist. My question is, this is a great product, and I'm very happy that it works that well, but does it also only stimulate epidermis or others too? Yes, we use it as a marker germ actually, but in the trial, when we saw this shift in the microbiome, we saw that it actually affects micrococci, for example, and other typical bacteria which will be stabilized or induced. So would you also recommend using it on healthy skin? Because the question is, if the skin is healthy, the microbiome should be healthy too, and you wouldn't want to change that, would you? Yes. We don't change it because we can only strengthen what is there. And if there is a skin condition present, you maybe have to use it for 14 days, 3 weeks, use a little more care products to actually help stimulate the good bacteria so that it can fight off the inflammatory bacteria again. In healthy skin, our philosophy is let's maintain the healthy microbiome. I didn't refer to that in great detail during my presentation, but I could tell you way more about what impact it has on stress skin, for example, which happens daily. We're exposed to stress factors every day, wrong cleansing, UV light, food. Like, for example, if you wash and disinfect, which we have to do during the pandemic, obviously. So what do? You wash, you disinfect the top layer of your skin, and then when you apply hand cream with stimulants, we will actually successfully stimulate the microbiome way more quickly. We actually looked at that over time. How long does it take? I wash my skin clean, I use disinfectant, and I apply normal cream. So the skin's microbiome will need 6 to 10 hours to be as dense as it used to be before. If you use the stimulants extract, it will only take 2 to 4 hours. So this is way better for the skin, because how often do we have to wash our hands? Not only every 6 to 10 hours, especially not during the pandemic. So what we can do is we can help maintain this natural state. So I would definitely recommend it also for normal skin. So will you be at the booth? Yes, I will. Okay, again, thank you very much for being here today, and I'll be happy to see you at the booth. Thank you.